Today we're going to learn about word color wheels, but really we're going to focus on getting into some good habits as artists. For example, we're going to learn how to draw lightly. In other words, applying less pressure to our pencils when we draw. We do this so that when we draw, it will be easier to erase. We're going to learn how to make block and bubble letters so that we can enhance our presentations in other classrooms. We're going to understand that pencils are for practice. We always practice before we make something permanent. We're going to get into the habit of drawing lightly and being able to erase things and revise things before we set it in stone with an ink pen or a marker. We're also going to understand the difference between horizontal and vertical lines and be able to make the appropriate line when asked. We're going to understand how to use rulers two different ways, both for measuring and as a straight edge. And of course, we're going to learn how to trace over our pencil marks to make more permanent lines. And then finally, when we're done, we're going to get to learn about color wheels. We're going to get to learn about mixing our own colors. And we're also going to learn about making colors both transparent and opaque. As you can see here, transparent means you can see through it, as you can with that black tape there, and opaque means that you cannot see through it. The first thing that we're going to do is write our names on our papers. I usually like to see names in the bottom right-hand corner of our papers. Unfortunately, some of us struggle with knowing our right from our left. So over here is my left hand. The way that I like to remember that is the hand that makes the L is the left hand. So the hand that doesn't make the L, as you can see here, that's not an L, that's my right hand. So if I'm going to write my name in the bottom right hand corner, all I have to do is put my right hand on the paper and see that's my bottom right hand corner. So I'm going to very carefully print my name. And then I'm also going to include my last initial. My last initial is simply the first letter to my last name. So if my last name was last name, I would put an L, a period, and then I'm also going to include my class code. You can find the class codes on the poster on the wall. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to find the center of our paper. And of course, the only way that we can do this is by measuring. The paper that I've given you is a 9-inch by 12-inch piece of paper. And we know this because, as you know, if our ruler is lined up with the edge of the paper, you'll see, let's go ahead and just count everything off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12 inches. Now, if I turn my ruler this way and line it up with the edge of the paper, as you can see, it's 9 inches. We know that because there's a 9 when it comes to the end. So, in order to find the center of the paper, first thing that we can do is this way. What is half of 12? So, what two numbers, when you add them together, make 12? Let's just go ahead and see. So 12 divided by 2, we can show it that way, is 6. Another way that we can show it is we can represent this a lot of different ways, but let's just agree that half of 12 is 6. So 6 plus 6 definitely equals 12. How does this help us find the middle of our paper? Well, we're just going to measure our 12 and we're going to put a dot right here at the 6-inch mark because that's the middle of the paper going this way. Now we still have to find the middle going this way. So now we have to think, what's half of 9? Well, 4 plus 4 equals 8, but there's still another inch to account for. So a half of 1 inch is 1/2. So 4.5 plus 4.5 equals 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the 4.5 inch mark, and that would be right there. and it's in line with the 6-inch mark. So that means this dot right here, that's the middle of our paper, right there. It's 4.5 plus 4.5 equals 9. 6 plus 6 equals 12. So that's the exact middle of our paper. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make some lines using our ruler as a straight edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and line the center of my paper up with each corner of my paper. And I'm going to push my pencil against the ruler, holding it with my other hand, and voila, I just made a straight line. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it this way, join the other center of my paper with the corner, and I've just made another straight line. And I'm going to do that with each corner of my paper. And once again, I'm going to take the ruler, join the corner of the paper. Now what happens if our ruler slips? So what happens? Well, that's where drawing lightly helps out. Because if your ruler slips and you have to erase, it sure is a lot easier to erase a line that's not drawn so heavy. The last line I'm going to make is a vertical line. So I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to line it up with the bottom of my paper. That's going to help me get a straight line. And once again, I'm just going to run my pencil, hold it in place with one hand. Sometimes I even stand up and put my weight on the ruler to keep it in place. And then I simply make a line. Now I've got a piece of paper divided into 6 sections. And soon I'll be in the position to use this as my color wheel. But first, I'm going to do some tracing. I think we talked about tracing over some of our pencil marks. Now, on the place where I wrote my name, I'm going to trace over that first. So my name and my class code goes right there. But with these lines, I didn't make all these wonderful straight lines just to go ahead and make them jaggedy by freehanding with my marker. So once again, I'm going to go over each one of these lines with my ruler. So I'm going to line it up, and just like I did before, I'm going to carefully, I'm not going to try to do this all the way across, because you notice the ruler doesn't reach. I'm just going to do one small section at a time, things that I can manage, and then trace over each one of my lines. Because you don't get a do-over with Sharpie markers. If your ruler slips, well, you're just going to have to live with it, and you may lose a few points on your rubric. So be careful. You know, take your time and do it right. Because if you don't have time to do it twice, then you definitely have time to do it right the first time. So now everything has been made permanent with a Sharpie marker. This is going to be good because when we paint, Sharpie markers are permanent markers and they don't bleed.